put it in sum, it's only by the grace of God that I'm here. And I love it. I absolutely love it. As I tell our prospective clients, friends, family, clients, obviously, we eat, breathe, live moving. That's not a joke. I mean, anything that a moving company has seen, I can almost guarantee that we've seen it. Anything from murders to high-end intellectual property lawsuits and everything in between. We handle it effectively, but through the mover's lens, because moving is a very unique industry in the sense that it's unlike any other.
Welcome back to Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Salmon's Moving and Storage, and it is Movified Wednesdays. What does that mean? Well, of course, we have my co-host, Stephen Reed with ReadyRolls.com. Big League
here in
Movers
Memphis, it's
out
hot.
in Memphis. It's hot.
It is hot as hell out here in Memphis. I gotta share that. And my AC out here in the cave is out. So if y'all see me glistening, it's not because we're talking to an attorney today. It's this is Memphis is hot as hell.
Oh, I especially wear a collared shirt. I figured this is like a lawyer's meeting here. I didn't want to just show up in a t-shirt. Like I was ready. Should I be in like in a suit and tie? And then Patrick shows up and this guy's just lax. So listen, for everybody that is watching and listening, we have Patrick Mayerbock with Mayerbock Law, located out in Chicago, Illinois. We're going to get into how Stephen Reed, all the way out in Memphis, has connected himself with the Chicago native. But I know that one of the big things that they do specialize in is in transportation law. And we have some exciting new things to share with you. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor. It's, speaking of the heat, I went out and visited Stephen out. There's nothing like Memphis hot. I got to tell you. And I'm married to an Italian woman. And let me tell you that you think that's hot and spicy? No. Memphis hot is...
Ooh, it's the river. It's humid. It's the humidity out here. It's just a different kind of sweat. You ever seen the movie Black Snake Moan? It does it really well. It really shows how hot it is. Or if you listen to Brian Slater on that same trip, it's because I feed him with barbecue 3 meals. It's just the meat sweats we have out here. That's why we're in a different temperature.
Shaking.
Drinking a lot of that iced tea on the porch, right?
That's right. Iced tea and eating that barbecue.
That's right.
On a rocking chair, of course.
It's great. I know Stephen Reed had tossed out some questions out to several groups, and we got some exciting questions lined up. But I kind of want to start off, Patrick, with a lot of different lawyers. Obviously, when I talk to them, I'm like, oh, why do you choose that niche? What made you do this? What made you do that? Because a lot of them, I remember I have some lawyer friends where they specialize in like bike injuries, because we had a lot of bike lanes and a lot of bike riders in Vancouver. And so that was one of the big things.
Yeah.
You don't, right? And it's interesting, but it also goes a lot in diversification in the moving industry as well too. So can you give us a little bit of origin story of why should these listeners even trust you, as part of the show, but what made you kind of diversify into transportation law?
Well, first, you never trust a lawyer. Let's be honest there.
Right.
No, it's a great question, and I get that asked a lot because those who know me, I come from a bit of a different background. So put it in sum, it's only by the grace of God that I'm here, and I love it. I absolutely love it. As I tell our prospective clients, friends, family, clients, obviously, we eat, breathe, live moving, and that's not a joke. I mean, anything that a moving company has seen, I can almost guarantee that we've seen it. Anything from murders to high-end intellectual property lawsuits. And everything in between, we handle it effectively, but through the mover's lens, because moving is a very unique industry in the sense that it's unlike any other. But kind of going back to how I got here, it's certainly, I like I say, by the grace of God, I stumbled into it, and I'm eternally grateful for it. I grew up in the same neighborhood on the northwest side of Chicago as Mr. Brian Slater, who is, I think his reputation precedes him.
The great one.
We actually just beep his name out on the show now, because he seems to never jump on these Friday episodes. So we actually just have to refer to him. He did send us, I think, a letter from your office that said that can refer to him as the great one.
Only refer to him as the great one.
Oh, Yes.
And he has his own, just so you know, he uses my letterhead because he runs, he just runs the show. Whatever he wants to do, it's
I bet it.
just let it be. But
Just to add in there, as funny as that is, I'm so grateful for where the story leads with Mr. Slater. So the great one. I'm sorry, the great one, Patrick. Please don't send me a letter on that. So
hey, we got, just so you know, we got put the trademark after it. So the little, when you guys do the editing, you got to put TM after the great one.
Every time you guys say his name, we have to send him $100 check every single time. So we
beep.
just yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is he is legendary in the sense that, I'm very grateful for God bringing our paths to cross again, because we were kids, we were in the same neighborhood, but we were in the rival schools. And, so we actually were in the same baseball league, all this good stuff. And our friends, we had these different groups of friends, but we all fought each other, so it's not like Brian and I had this lovey-dovey.
We know Chicago. We've seen Chicago documentaries. We know what goes on.
The thing is, it's our neighborhood. We probably thought we were tougher than we were. So, which is even worse. Lo and behold, I start the law practice. I had just out of law school. Before I was even licensed, I thought I was going to go federal law enforcement. I was actually hired. That's what I always wanted to do. In that neighborhood, you become a cop, fireman, construction worker, tradesman, or deadbeat. And of all those things,
Patrick, you have a pretty big family, right?
The two brothers, and then my heart lies with the wife and three little baby girls who just.
That's right. So you are a family of three boys. That's what it is. There's three Mayerbocks out there that were growing up in this neighborhood. So it's Brian Slater 1 versus 3 Mayerbocks. I'm keeping tabs on the gangs of Chicago on that side of the town.
Well, when we were trying to form our own gang, but it just never took off.
But this is stuff why, and you see Patrick and I getting along and laughing. I don't typically, moving company owners and attorneys, we don't do this, but you're hearing a background that we're very familiar with on Movified on the side is a blue collar, putting something from nothing and making yourself something out of nothing. And I'll let you continue, Patrick, but that's what I'm so impressed with you on that side is where you came from and what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. And it's likewise that's one of the things that draws me to movers is, I grew up very, very good parents where we didn't have a lot, but what we had, it was more than enough. And it instilled hard work in us, but they instilled you got to work your ass off, because at the end of the day, my dad told me he'd break my legs before he'd let me go into the post office like he did. And he was not one to lie. So I had to figure something else out. Couple of career changes and get licensed. I never wanted to work for a law firm. So I had a very good mentor. He tells me Ed Chanu, he was this quintessential old school Chicago attorney. He was actually Rod Blagojevic's boss at one point. But that's a whole other story that I probably shouldn't get into. And he's like, just start practice. I'll get you out of whatever you get yourself into. And and he came through on it, and through real estate closing, reconnected with Brian, and he were sitting down, signing his documents, and he was like, hey, you do other stuff, people owe me money, can you take care of that? I'm like, yeah, I can take care of that for you. And in true Chicago sense. But we started small in, New City was actually at the time, it was in basically a commercial unit on the floor and then a couple residentials on top. And it was amazing to see the start there and how it grew from that, but which was very nice, don't get me wrong. But it was an empire, not too long after that. And I attributed
rapid empire.
And the thing is Slater will tell me, and truthfully so, he'll say, I listen to only about 75% of what you tell me, and the other 25% he just kind of wings it. And I gotta say, those winging it, he did pretty well. That the one purchase was along those lines, and I'm effing him, excuse the language, but you're gonna, what are you doing here? This isn't the right fit. And he's like, just do the paperwork, and he was right. So. We grew. I think Brian and I started working together 2012 or 2013 early. And, it was a blessing to just kind of continue it and keep going from there. And, we grew. And
that's year 4 for him, if I'm not mistaken. So you're learning a lot. When you're jumping in the fire, and y'all are learning things from the get go.
Absolutely. And they don't teach you. I'm sure I brought this up actually earlier today. If you've ever seen My Cousin Vinny, it's a good analogy. When you go to law school, they don't really teach you to practice law. They teach you procedure and this and that. So not only do I have very little clue what I'm doing. I'm a newbie. And here's Brian Slater, this budding industry genius who's asking you these questions, asking you to do things. And I'm like, okay. So that translated to doing my job, which is go back, continue being a student of the game, study the hell out of it, and come back with something that's viable, founded, and pertinent to the business. And, obviously you develop your skill set over the years, and, Brian would come, it's no joke. Some of the things that we saw in New City were absolutely worth writing a book about. So, when you do that, but, we had a good style and we had fun doing it. It wasn't always sunshine and rainbows, but the great thing about Brian was we could always sit back afterwards and be like, that was kind of crazy, huh?
Before we ever started using a moving CRM, someone asked me, could you 10x what you're doing right now with the current systems and processes you have in place? And I said, no. And so he was like, well, then you need to just pull the trigger on the software. And then I saw Smart Moving and it was game over.
Austin joined thousands of moving owners on Smart Moving in 2021. Since then, he's more than doubled his business.
And I always compare Smart Moving to Apple products. It's just so simple, so easy to use, and that's really what's allowed my team to scale and now have 2 branches. And last year we scaled Central Coast Moving over 50% growth.
If you're ready to turn your moving company into a machine that drives profit, not chaos, try Smart Moving.
At that stage, y'all are kind of the same. You're my age, so y'all are pretty young. You're pretty young, probably fresh at that point. So what else were you doing besides moving in real estate? Were you doing any other fields? What were you working in at that point?
Great question. So we branded ourselves as full service law firm, and we really were a full service law firm just because I had that benefit of Ed Chanu having my back. Ed was an old school Chicago PI attorney, personal injury, but he had a full service law firm, and he was very interesting practice that he had, but he did a lot of politicians, things like that. So he would always introduce me, give me good connections. And as time goes on, the more and more of my book, my monthly efforts, so to speak, the more and more that New City would take of that, we started doing more and more and more, and eventually everything with them. Everything else kind of scaled down to the point that, he obviously was very gracious with introductions and support, to the point that I got to know like Stephen Reed, who's since become a very close friend of mine and my family's. And, it expanded and blew up from a full service practice to now I think we're somewhere about 70 to 80% moving base, just household goods moving nationwide. And the thing is, I love moving. I genuinely do. I love it, a good underdog story, and moving companies are the quintessential underdog.
So I just to jump in here, because I bet you as people are listening to this, they're going, okay, and I know it's just like in Canada as it is the United States, there are so many different state laws that when you have moving company owners that have questions, they want to reach out to you and have a better understanding. What is it? What's your answer? What's the solution for those that might be in Memphis? What about the ones that are in Arizona, the ones that are in California and have all these different state laws, but they want to be able to have a lawyer like you that understands moving? I mean, it's the same thing like an accounting firm, right? It's like, have you worked with a moving company before? Do you know all the different GLs? How does that look like? And it's the same thing with talking to a lawyer when you're trying to figure out the different bill of ladings and insurance and what are we covered and what are we not covered for, and how does this work, and how can I get out of this situation, especially with these employees. So does your firm also have like practice to handle this, or like has experience to understand all the different states?
Oh yeah, it's we actively practice, to be clear, via interstate. That's the hook, so to speak. Because when you're doing, if any mover has interstate authority or is looking to have interstate authority, by virtue of the law that jumps things to a federal basis, which with the one exception of California is very funky. The other states are, there's each one specific, which we do a deep dive on. But we effectively practice we've never touched Hawaii, but we have practiced in every other state. Now, when I say California, there's a unique way of going about it, but it's still doable, again, on the interstate basis. But for example, our immediate licensure is Illinois and Wisconsin. But from the interstate perspective, we practice, from a practical standpoint, it really, we have a pretty nice approach in terms of whatever it may be. So I would say 90% of what any mover is going to face is something we just keep in-house. We just handle it, whether it be, anything from claims to compliance docs to storage, policies, procedures, so on and so forth. We go into the law, and actually many of the states we have, Bill and I over at the law firm, we have a separate file by state.
Shout out to Bill. You're the man, Bill. Shout out.
He is the godfather of the law firm. He's a true blessing over here. The man has done everything in law. He's so accomplished. It's such a tremendous asset and just great to practice law with.
Extremely thorough.
And I would think that you would probably be just utilizing a lot of boiler templates. A lot of us talk about the fact that why reinvent the wheel on a lot of processes. We all know it's like, oh, I'm going to pad furniture differently. No, it's the same thing at every moving company. It's not rocket science. You just try and do it better. That you would have, oh, okay, you have this issue. Great. Boom. Here's this main template. Let's customize it for your state, your situation, everything else. But we've already done this 1,000 times. And this is basically the outline to this process.
And you bring up a great point. So what we've done at the law firm is we have our own proprietary copyrighted set of documents, and it's, interstate based. And then we have some state ones as well, depending on, which state. Some are just unregulated, so you just work off of the interstate ones. But
shout out to Tennessee.
Oh, I love Tennessee. I genuinely I am in love with Tennessee. They do things right. So, yeah, I will second that one. But what we do is we license the documents, and I can tell you the way we set up these documents is from years of experience, not only with just one moving company, but right now we have about 35 moving companies nationwide that we routinely consult. We know who they are. They pick up the phone, they call me. I say, hey, so-and-so, how are your kids? You know a little bit about each other. And then, you address whatever it is. So it's a regular relationship. But we have, countless times it's moving company at whatever stage of the game, from startups to all the way through, getting ready to go PE. They call and consult and we'll work on unique projects, so on and so forth. But the crux of what we do with our documents is we like to get in and understand the business, because where you have I'll call it a base, but it's not a boilerplate. You have your base. Not every moving company is the same. Some have owner-operator models. Some are employees. Some, and I don't recommend this, contractors. That's a whole other discussion, but the reality is a lot are contractor based. And so you have to, from a legal perspective, you have to craft around how they do things. Some people do storage and transit. Some don't do storage and transit. There's so many little nuances about the operational aspects that you have to contemplate in these sets of documents to make sure that you're covering them extremely well. And I bring that up because, like the storage and transit thing is a big problem. There's a little gap in it where people don't understand. Hey, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna take Mr. Customer from Tennessee, and I'm gonna move him over out to Arizona, or let's give Cam some props. So we're gonna move from Tennessee. We're gonna go out to Utah, and the thing is, then if you think about it, okay, well,
shout out Cam Valley,
best of Utah.
Yeah, oh yeah, and they are the best of Utah. So I could attest to that one. In that process, you may, the storage is in the way. Is it permanent storage or is it just storage in transit? Well, if you don't have that spelled out now, you're walking yourself into a major problem, because you have, statutorily speaking, you have to offer the FDP on that initial move. Well, when does the FDP obligation stop? And then I shouldn't say if, most people make some claim of some sort. When there's damage, when it reaches there, did they actually pay for coverage throughout the entirety? What law controls? It's these little gaps and these little nuances that we actually will sit down either virtually or in person with our clients. We'll talk about, okay, how do you guys do it? Make suggestions based on how they like to operate. It's not my job to go in and tell a mover how to move. My job is to understand how the mover moves, take that, create a comprehensive plan from a legal perspective and make sure that that matches and protects that. Because at the end of the day, you guys have a ton against you from the government base, from the customer base, from the employee base, from everything. So you need to be as protected as possible at every step of the game, so you can focus on the actual business rather than worry about looking over your back. The other big thing that we see all the time that comes up are insurance issues.
Oh, we got lots of questions for those ones for sure.
Are you a mover looking to make an impact? Discover Moving Letters AI and join the ML Plus Club today. Elevate your customer engagement with the personal touch of handwritten letters.
If you want to take your company to that next level, it's the only way to subscribe. If you're doing anything but Moving Letters AI, you need to get on it. So it's going to take your business to that next level. You're going to see an increase in that revenue. Let's go.
I highly recommend using this company. They're amazing to work with. They even send you an email on how much work they're producing for you.
Don't miss out. Join the revolution and start making moves that matter.
Put a golden damn ticket in there with Moving Letters AI.
Being found on the second page of Google is literally like having a billboard in the middle of the desert. Your mama ain't gonna see it. No one's gonna see it. You're on the second page of Google, no one's gonna call, no one's gonna book. Here is the deal. If your business is not ranking on the top of Google, that means your competitors are going to be stealing your customers every single day. So at Rotate Digital, we don't play any guessing games. We use data-driven SEO strategies to make sure Google finds you first, so that these Google searches turn into your customers, not your competitors' customers. How do we do it? We do it through AI-driven keyword optimization, exclusive blog networks, backlinking strategies, and honestly, the secret stuff, the proprietary lead attribution software. So what do you get as a result? You get not only good marketing, but now you get clarity into what is bringing you more revenue. So if that's something you want to do, you want to make sure your leads find you and not your competition, go ahead and go to rotatedigital.com, schedule a call, and we'll help you take your business to the top of Google.
I want to get a woke list, a worst of all time. What is the worst 3 states? Because this is always a big debate in our moving groups. Everybody likes to complain about, I got the worst state regulation. I got it the worst. I'm regulated the most. So if we can get you a quick worst 3 in the nation, state-wise, what are our movers against in these states?
It's actually pretty easy, but I mean, if I can add an honorable mention, that is, I'll explain.
We'll go Mount Rushmore of the woke.
Awesome. Well, California. I mean, California is just, it's a shit show in terms of how the regulators have approached that. Number one, owner operator model. I'm sure, you guys are familiar with how California has just tried to obliterate that model. We've actually worked a potential workaround, which is a whole other thing. But it's you can't do anything in California without taking some unacceptable level of risk if you're going to properly run a business. It's just what it is. And then, you probably go out east, Jersey's tough.
I'm speaking at the New Jersey conference, the New Jersey Mover Association conference this year. Pretty excited to see that, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm going to ask some more questions before I go there on what they're bad on against.
Absolutely. And the thing is, everywhere you go, they're great movers. They're just people trying to do business, trying to do the right thing. And then the problem becomes is, these regulators are after the people doing the right thing, and they completely ignore the ones doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, I feel like the government agency starts in these states to fight rogue movers, and I think it starts with genuality and saying, this is a problem people are facing, and let's fight this. But then I think different parties, years of transition, cut. It just turns into one person overwhelmed who's just regulating who comes to them, the good guys, us. I feel like that's how it ends up in a lot of these states.
You're absolutely right. I mean, Illinois is a perfect example. So our firm actually drafted.
Oh, we got Illinois. Is that the third? Is it a double answer, or
no? I'll give you a weird.
He doesn't want to upset his old state there.
Oh, no, it's terrible. But I grew up in that, so it's like it feels like home.
You're used to it, yeah.
To that point, we drafted legislation we have going right now to combat movie fraud. Okay, Illinois, from an intrastate perspective, brokering is outlawed. You can't do it. Well, guess what? People do it all the time, but the way they do it is they steal the intellectual property of legitimate, good, doing the right thing movers, and it's chaos accordingly. So what they have, you'll see these press releases out there, okay, well, we stopped X amount of movers and we've done this and that. What about the people who are not licensed? They're stealing the right movers' intellectual property, and then they're going and ripping customers off.
Yeah, how many big league movers have you had to shut down for me, Patrick? This just rogue popping up big league movers.
The crazy thing is, and this is the truth. One of them was actually a mile away from my office in Chicago. That was kind of easy to deliver me a letter. That was fun.
But yeah, that's a continuous is the rogue movers, and that's what we want these people to fight. Do you a lot of big topics on ATA, the conferences? Do you recommend that us as movers really get involved in the movers associations?
Absolutely. However, it's important to make sure that it's the right association. Full disclosure, I'm outside counsel for Titans. So love the Titans.
OG, I'm an OG. What up, Titans?
So, and that's an excellent organization. There's other excellent organizations. But one of the discussions I actually had earlier today is the fact that there really needs to be a concerted effort to unify moving owners to the point where they have a political voice. Because right now, you're kind of somewhere in between the truckers and the just kind of general, labor voices that are out there. And there's nobody that actually understands. I shouldn't say nobody. There are very few that actually understand the unique needs of household goods movers. And, that's one of the problems. So what I love about movers too is just how collaborative you guys are. It's awesome. It's you aren't threatened by each other, which is attorneys. I mean, I go to a party and I hear there's another guy at the party who's an attorney. I automatically hate him. It's like, I start sizing him up and, get tough guy, puff it up.
This is my turf.
This is my turf. Like, yeah, that's my injury out there. So
This is where you just walk up and be like, I got a restraining order against you. You cannot be within 20 meters at this party.
Yeah. If anybody's getting hurt here, that's mine.
That's right.
We're not meeting
right.
about it.
Oh, that person tripped. Oh, I got him.
like, I mean, you should see, you've never seen fat old little men run after something like you see when that attorney finds an injury. I mean, I've literally seen it where guys get out of the car in Chicago, like they see an accident.
That's funny.
It's like me when I see somebody with a for sale sign cutting their yard. I stop. Hey, how you doing? I'm Steve. I want to introduce you. My family's late for everything on Saturdays.
Oh, I did that the other day. I was picking up something off like a Facebook marketplace and I saw the for sale sign and I didn't realize it because what I was buying wasn't something that you'd think, okay, now they must be moving. I was like, great. Hey, do you want a walkthrough estimate right now? Boom, boom, boom. Live switch, like full on. She's like, oh, wow, this is great.
You need to be prepared when it does sell. You got to be prepared.
That's
man.
right. You got to be prepared. Patrick, I kind of want to switch the pace because at the beginning of the conversation, if anybody was listening at the very beginning, you mentioned that you have dealt with so many wild cases in the moving industry, specifically ones that also involve like murder and some odd ones. Can you, without dropping names or anything else, are you able to share kind of like a one or two different scenarios of some wild situations in the moving industry that you've had to deal with?
Absolutely. Let me see.
Yes. No.
We're going wild stories right here.
I want to hear them.
I'll start with this one. This is, and he'll know what I'm talking about here, but a moving client that I had, you get weird, obviously as movers, you get weird calls, inquiries all the time. So he gets a call from an attorney and, threatening call, tough guy, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. And the issue
I like
was
this game. We can play, is it big league movers? Is it big league movers?
It's not, dude. Those are, see, but big league movers is just, I mean, you guys, and this is serious. Most of what we do is proactive because you guys had it so well run. And this mover that I'm talking about did too. It's just, this is one of those, the weird shit finds you sometimes. The attorney, is a tough guy. So it gets transitioned over to me. And, so I kind of talk and, I always find it funny when there's clearly somebody who doesn't know moving law. And, they come up with all these great legal theories that just don't apply. I love it.
And what was the scenario, just for those that are listening that might be in a scenario like this right now?
So this particular scenario was, there was something in one of the guy's vaults that this guy needed for one of these bullshit lawsuits. He was it was a product liability. I was injured by A, B, and C, but this guy hadn't paid his bill in probably a year, and just it didn't make it in the books. But he owed probably at the time 30 G's, 35 G's, because this guy was a man of means. Okay, so one of the first things we do when you get who claims to be a heavy hitter is we do our homework, we do our research. Okay, who's calling? Why are they calling? Is it legitimate? Is it not legitimate? What is the background? Who is their client? Well, it turns out that this particular client was a good friend of Bill Clinton, and had some connections to Bill Clinton. They used to.
Well, I didn't know we were going here. I'm trying to live on this. I don't want to go up missing in a few months.
Well, Clinton wasn't in this. This was just a friend. This is one of his strip club. But so the guy, is he's obviously a mess, going through some things. He's got, he's all over the place, and he's got this bullshit suit going to try and recoup some money, I'm sure, because he couldn't pay our bill and all that. So he's really worried about this particular item that's germane to his case. We work out a deal where we get the majority of the payment. And then, we give them the one particular item, but the other vaults that we have, they say. And what happens then is, the agreement is he's supposed to provide X amount of dollars to bring us up to speed. And then we kick him out because we don't want to deal with him anymore. Well, he never made that payment. So we go through the auction process. And, so this is, we do customize auction, SOPs for auctions, depending on the states and all that kind of stuff. But the auctions are, they're kind of sad most of the time. A lot of time it's people who die, things like that. But this one I was kind of curious. It was fun. Lo and behold, I mean, the shit that the guy had in there, we're talking like, I can't get too specific, but he had some jewelry from a championship rings from a particular sport that is also very popular. And I mean, the stuff that you find in here was absolutely insane. So this guy, you do a little bit more digging and dig deeper. This guy had some pretty interesting ties. It just became a shit show some years later. That one was interesting just because you don't often get to see the, at the end of the day, you think it's just your standard, okay, I'm throwing out old clothes and stuff like that from it. But lo and behold, you had a championship ring of this caliber, coming through, and this is what you're auctioning off. That was kind of cool. Worse end in terms of interesting stories, and this is, unfortunately, it's not.
Can I try and break this down, Patrick? Because I love the story, but I really kind of want to get our listeners understanding this. So you have a customer that's in storage. This customer is going through some legal issues and needs to get some documents from his storage locker. We hear it all the time. Customers in your storage locker, they've been in there for a year or two. They realize, oh no, I really needed this one item in storage. You realize they're 6 to 8 months behind payment, if not longer. They still owe a bunch of money, and you are declining their request to access this, which usually fires them up. They don't understand why. It's not like they're taking out all their stuff. They just need that one thing. You're going to hear every excuse out of the book.
The one thing that makes it valuable to pay the bill is what they're trying to get.
Exactly. It's the family that realized they packaged their passports and they planned a trip, and it's 6 months later now that they're looking for it and realizing, oh, it's not one box and they haven't paid. So like something of serious nature. And so you as the moving company get this call. You really don't know what to do in this scenario because, they owe the money. They're threatening legal actions. You don't know what to do. So you reach out to someone like Mayerbock Law. You talk to Sam or Patrick or part of their legal team as well too. They go back and forth. They come back to a negotiation. Let's say that customer owed 10 grand. They settle on 6 grand and you set up a payment date. Hey, guess what? You know what? August 1st, you're making this payment and you'll get that one locker. You have 10 storage vaults, but you're going to get that one storage vault there and then figure out the rest of your stuff. Or like even just a final settlement. Hey, listen, pay us 6 grand. You owe us 10. get your shit out of here. I don't ever want to see it again. Get out. August 1st kicks around. Boom. Nothing is happening. This guy does not make a payment. I dealt with this actually with a senior lady recently. And because of my patience and kind of prolonging the situation, then being such a
I was
super
gonna say,
hard
there's
ass,
some passion in here. I don't know if you noticed that passion, but Mark started coming with the passion as he's recapping this. I felt it. There's some he's a victim in this.
I'm always the victim.
Aren't we all?
The elderly lady actually paid like 80% of her storage locker and is now on a payment plan. So I could have went ahead, auctioned it off, and done this whole process. I gave her a little bit more of extension. She ended up coming with the funds, and she's on a payment plan. So it's great. But back to the story. Now he or she does not pay. It's August 1st. And guess what? We had the agreement. It's going to auction as of August 5th. Like, this stuff is being loaded up. We're setting up the auction at our warehouse. Hey, we're putting the newspaper ad out there. We're making sure we're following all the proper legal details that need to be done so that we're covering our butts. And we're learning this information by working with a law firm like yourself that has this experience. And what happens? Is this guy showing up on auction day? Did he just not show up at all? Like, was he totally just like fucked over because he needed these documents? Like, what ends up happening? Because I thought this story was going to go sideways where he's like at the locker and like freaking out because he wants access, or his lawyers are saying, sorry, you're not allowed to have this auction. You know, we're fighting back more. We're making this worse.
If you're considering Snowball, just do it.
Snowball creates done-for-you referral programs for moving companies so you can turn happy customers into new revenue without lifting a finger. And the results speak for themselves.
In less than a year, we've collected over 2,000 referrals.
We generated over $200,000 of revenue that cost about $5,000 to do it.
I believe we have 4 or 5 the very first day.
The companies winning with Snowball are the ones that already care about their customers. We just help turn that into new business through human outreach and customer nurturing.
Snowball is part of the arsenal of tools that I recommend to my clients because it works.
And this is one of those things. I think he was in and out of jail or prison. I forget which one, but you know, so I don't know what his schedule was at the time, but I think he had a full you know, what do they call it, date list or whatever. But in any event, you know, his attorneys did show up, and you know, it was kind of the tough guy routine again. When you don't know moving law, shut your fucking mouth. Excuse the language, but you know that beep. You know, I gotta beat myself. You know, I told my wife I'd behave today too. This isn't working.
You're failing. But so again, like, these attorneys show up. Like, I mean, to me, you know, unless you have thick skin, unless you are like knowing that your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, there's still that nervousness. What's going to happen? Am I going to get hit back with something? Is something being sold that shouldn't have been sold? You know, the customer's attorneys are now standing at the storage locker. So me as the owner are like, you know, Patrick's back, you know, in Chicago at his office. I'm, you know, in Arizona, wherever my location is.
They're coming in like Billy Madison. They're coming in like they're
in that scenario. Is the best thing to do is to just basically don't say anything. Like, just like stay on track, keep the everything in motion, and just pretend as if they're not there. Even if they're trying to like talk to you or being like, hey, this is not, just completely ignore them, because you don't want to say anything that could hold you in contempt.
Well, if you think about it, there's nothing that you're going to say that's going to help. So why say anything? It's, you know, this is one of those things, confidence kills. And this particular client, we had worked up their docs. So, you know, what a lot of movers don't understand is the tools that they have available to them. Most states allow liens, you know, so in this state, those goods were lien. So the mover has a legal right to that item. There's an actual fundamental right that they have to it. And when you know that, and you kind of understand, you know, what you have behind you when it's crafted that way, be confident. Why say anything? My father-in-law, you know, gives some great advice. You can't argue with error. So, you know, in this kind of situation, obviously, you know, you assure your safety, you know, safety of the people around. But, you know, in this case, you know, there were the little tiny attorneys too. They were kind of like little guys.
We recently hired Ready Rolls to help us with hiring some offshore help, some DAs. and they've done an amazing job. They found the perfect candidate for our company. Not only that, they helped answer the questions that we had about the process. Initially, hiring a BA can be a bit intimidating, but they answered all the questions. It's been an amazing experience. Our BA has been a huge part of our success thus far. We're actually in the process of hiring a few more right now. Definitely see them as being a key part of our growth and reaching our goals in 2025.
And the game changer for our company, I'm confident to be a game changer.
Visit ReadyRolls.com. There is now a better way to scale.
To cap this off, because for all those that are listening, guess what? You're going to have to stay tuned to the 10 questions we got coming up for part 2 for next week. But to finalize this little part off here, Patrick, for those that are listening that go, look, like I can't afford a huge retainer. I can't afford to have you kind of on my payroll list, but I do have storage in my warehouse. I do have terms and conditions in the back of my BOL. Is there a way to reach out to your firm to say, hey, can you review this and make sure that we have our T's crossed and our I's dotted for just the terms and where we should maybe input different initials or signatures for the customer to sign so that everybody's on the same page, so that you're almost avoiding the situation from happening? Like, is there like a way that you can kind of not have that huge cost, but hey, we can help you out in these different niche areas?
There's a couple, absolutely. There's a couple ways that we do it. I mean, number one, we have our own law firm copyrighted licensed documents that, that right off the bat that's a full package. I mean, that covers you. It's a 5G package for the documents, the document license for use, routine updates, but also 3 hours of attorney consultation. So it's not like we're saying, hey, here's the documents, figure it out. No, it's we get to know you. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what your business is.
Let's limit the risk, right? Let's first of all, let's take out the risk so you don't need much attorney later, right?
Absolutely. And that, we love that kind of scenario, because a $5,000 investment up front, not only, do we demonstrate the value of these documents and train, provide the teaching and training on how to actually use them. But now what we're doing is when that catastrophic event does come and you get that weird, wacky call, and they call me back, and I the first question is, hey, let me see your BOL, let me see your warehouse receipt, let me see this and that. It makes sense. You're not reinventing the wheel. I'm not having to sit there. Okay, well, we do this. It becomes a lot easier. And
your tariff.
Yeah, the tariff, exactly. I mean, and Stephen, when we were, it's just kind of, it's secondhand. Okay, well, it's this. Here's your form. This is your letter. This is what you want to do. It becomes very efficient. So what we do, what's very important in our firm, is to demonstrate value. It's we're not the biggest. We don't want to be the biggest, but we are the best. And with that, we're somewhat selective in the sense of who we take on as clients, in the sense that anybody who's going to be watching this podcast is in our pool. That's the type of people. We don't take shitbags off the street who are just trying to scam the system. That's just not us. It's not what our value set is.
They're looking for people listening to Movified, trying to improve their business, trying to grow with a company.
And with that being said, the movingattorney.com.
So that's one of them. So that's been worked on. So that IT, I'm always better lawyer than an IT guy. I have a good friend who I owe a lot of information. Kind of
in construction.
Yes, in construction. But
okay, so you can still go to meyerback.law.com.
Absolutely,
that's and reach out that way as well too. Okay, fantastic.
I wanted to share just a couple of things that just to kind of run into my relationship with Patrick before we sign off on the episode. Patrick, I came in a crazy world. I did not have an attorney ever. I had people do the lease reviews here and there. I had somebody that did my buyout, but I didn't have an attorney to go to that understood my company, understood where I was trying to grow, and that was a gap at my company. And I came in and I had, I was really, really getting bullied really hard by a company that I was turning in a 9-year leases on. They got extended through COVID, and I was getting bullied and thrown through the mud, and they were saying nothing you can do. And I reached to Patrick. I said, hey, well, Brian Slater said, you got to talk to my guy, Patrick. And called him, and he jumped on a call within 1 hour. I called him for advice and said, hey, here's what's going on. And he said, you know what? I don't have another call. I'm not going to let them bully this way. Let me jump on that call with you. From there, this man is one of my best friends. He has the way he handles his business, the way he handles his family, the way he views his family and adores them, and that's his why. So many common denominators it is like a mover, and how he's building his company. And he takes so much pride in his work. And so from there, I didn't know all the things that I needed, but everything that Patrick had, any cost that I've had with Patrick has ROI. It has saved me money, or it has saved me an incident. So like some of the things that I've gone through, I had some notes just as we were talking. It helps me not interrupt everybody. Patrick's probably thinking, you're doing pretty dang good. And Mark is too. Look at Mark's smile. He's like, he's getting better on the interrupt him. But like, he came in and he said, Steve, you don't have, like, if you shut down, if you shut down as a, like, if you died right now, your wife would have to go through hell, pardon my French, to get what you've built while she's figuring out the company. And he got in there, understood my business before we were talking charges. He understood what I have built. He understood everything I have here. He said, here's what I can bring to the table of what I have in the past. Here's what I understand of your business. He built out a trust for me. He managed the whole process. I didn't know what the hell a trust was. I've never come from a family with trust, right? I started with $1,000, right? And so business formation, he changed my whole world there to where I'm saving money on taxes every year, and how and he's smirking because he's like, no, really, I'm protecting your ass, not really saving money of how you're structured. But he's held my CPA accountable. He's given guidance as a friend, as a father. I had a crazy situation where I thought I was renting from just a normal high CBRE type firm, not CBRE. Well, the landlord that resides in China fired them the week after I signed the lease. And then I just had a landlord that just says no to things that are in a contract. So he's saved my ass there. Beep. Workers' comp. He's protected me on claims. I've called him when I had a customer blowing me up directly on a claim. He called that customer and said, I'm handling the investigation. It's going to go through me. They've hired me as a third party to handle this, and I've never heard another thing. And the guy was tickled. I'm friends with the guy now that Patrick did. So insurance issues, but more importantly, DOT setting that stuff up, and most importantly, I have somebody watching my damn back, and I feel completely comfortable with that. And so, as a friend, and I don't have friends that are attorneys, didn't grow up with any. I'm proud to have my friend on this episode, and I'm proud of what he's building and the way he's building it. So I wanted to share that, and thank you, Mark, for giving me a sounding board to share that about my friends.
Well, I really appreciate it. It's always nice to hear. It makes me slightly jealous because now I need to find a lawyer friend that's in transportation. I got way too many that are like, oh, I do this and I do that. I'm like, you are no use to me at all.
Well, that's another thing. So Patrick has people everywhere. I don't know about Canada, but Patrick has, if there's something that goes on in Tennessee, Patrick has relationships with people that he manages, actually saves me money by directing them and watching their bill for me.
And this is a double-ended thing too, as we're going to sign up, because I promised you guys like 10 minutes ago that we were just going to end up on this situation, and then me and Steven always get on these rants, and the episode turns into be an hour each. One, I feel like now we're going to have an episode 3 or 4, because I think it is really important to discuss what a family trust is, how to structure your company and entities in that personal organizational chart, not your company organizational chart. We've talked about those org charts before in the past for your business, but in your life is so different, because if something does happen, like Patrick said, and now it's your spouse and kids, or you are looking for exit strategies, you are looking for situations. I remember one of my lawyers saying to me, going, you do realize though that if you do decide to sell, by actually not even having your wife as a partnership, you could have actually split the taxes and saved on the sale, like to end up paying a lot more taxes if you actually had more shares shifted over as yourself. And then he arrives saying, why don't you have your family trust set up so that can be done? And that's all been set up. So to me, like, that's almost a whole episode on its own, that we could try and discuss at a future date. But this has been great. Patrick, and we are going to start part 2.